Here.
Garrell. Huffman.
Here.
Hughes. Present. Garcia.
Present.
Holloway.
Here.
Kellenberger.
Here.
All right, and then Mayor, I don't know if you want to explain to the public, we have recognition of visitors and special guests. Would you be able just to explain who's on the call?
Sure, so they'll be speaking, actually at the time of item number 1, but we did just want to note for the public that we have Don Mildrum, CEO of National Primers, and attorney Mike McGinley joining us on Teams tonight.
Perfect. And then next year we have our city report. First thing I want to tell everyone is happy Juneteenth. If you're off work today, I hope you enjoyed a nice day with families, a nice day to celebrate maybe in a pool. All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about really quick is once again animal control. It's a big topic for us. It's official with the county. We're going forward. If any citizens need help with animals and it's a non-emergency, like a dog not on a leash, you want to call the police department at 217-324-5991. All right. Now, if you have an emergency, a vicious dog, someone's being attacked, call 911. All hands on deck to fix that situation. And I'm happy that's going on. Another big thing I want to talk about is recently we expanded our residency for employees. I'm happy to say we've had lots of applications. I'm hoping we're going to fill those voids we've had for a while with our employees. And one example I'm going to say is the fire department has had 30+ applicants here. So hopefully we get some good ones and fill those positions. So I'm very excited to report that. Anything else from the council? All right, moving on, we have public participation. We have a Caleb Graff. Are you here today, Caleb?
Yeah, right here.
Yep. If you want, you come to the mic here and you'll have, I don't know if you want to explain the rules, Brianne.
Yeah.
Oh, did you accidentally sign the public participation?
Oh, yeah, no, I just thought it was registration.
Hey, no, you don't have to speak if you don't want to, my friend.
No, I'm good, I'm good. That was 100% a mistake. My bad. Thought it was a sign-in sheet.
Hey, no worries, my friend. All right.
Thank you, thank you.
No public participation. So, all right. Need a motion? Yep, all right, then I need a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes from the June 5th, 2025 meetings. Anyone want to make that motion? So moved. Alderman Kellenberger and Alderman Garrell with the second. Any discussion? Corrections, statements? Roll call, please.
Garrell.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Zumwalt.
Aye.
Hughes. Garcia.
Aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Aye.
Sisson.
All right, motion carries. Next, we need a motion to approve the expenditure report and payroll report for the current period. Is there a motion for that? Alderperson Garrell and Alderperson Garcia with the second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Garcia.
Aye.
Sisson.
Aye.
Garrell.
Aye.
Zumwalt. Huffman.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Hughes.
Aye.
Motion carries. Alderman Kellenberger, would you start us, please?
I make a motion to approve an ordinance approving the development agreement with National Primers LLC in the city of Litchfield under 65 ILCS 5/8-1-2.5.
All right, so Alderman Kellenberger, I have a first. Can I get a second for that motion, please? Alderperson Sisson with the second. All right, the floor is open for discussion. Brianne, how do you want to start this?
Sure. So Don Mildrum, the CEO, is present, and he'll be giving a brief overview, and then the council can ask any questions regarding the development agreement to myself or our legal team. We also have present one of the managing partners, their CFO, and their attorney, who can also assist in answering any council questions. So Don, if you would like to give us an overview of who National Primers is and what you'll be doing in Litchfield, that would be great.
Great, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Well, very nice to meet you all, and I look forward to getting out there and taking a tour and getting to know you all better in person. This is a really exciting time for National Primers. This actually goes back a little over 5 years now. It was a lot of planning and research and talking to industry experts, meeting with CEOs and CFOs, VPs of ammunition companies to really understand the market and why there was such a shortage. Being a sportsman myself and shooting and taking my kids shooting, being a reloader, a lot of us have seen the shortage of ammunition and primers going back over 20 years. It's available and then it's not. So a lot of it was trying to figure out why is this occurring and why is it not resolving itself. And what we found was that the market demand is so high, based on all the geopolitical tension around the world. And here in the U.S., there's a lot more firearms owners. A lot of them are women. 80-90% are new shooters that are women. We're adding about 1 million a month. It's incredible, what the demand is. And currently, the global demand is simply outstripping manufacturing. And that's really what it comes down to. So wanting to try to come to the table and provide a solution for that, or a possible solution, is to build a primer manufacturing facility. And the reason why we focused on that and not like ammunition or gunpowder is that primers they're both easy to make and not, right? There's a lot of technical knowledge that goes into making it, so it's difficult, both from a technical standpoint, and it requires a lot of capital, right? It just does. And so there's a lot of companies that can go out and buy components and make ammunition, but it's very difficult to make primers without highly specialized equipment, a really strong technical team that knows how to do it, and be able to put the capital together, right? So we'll be only the 5th manufacturer in the United States that can produce on this scale. We'll be when we're fully operational, which will be will be our 3rd year of production. We'll be the 2nd largest producer in the United States, and we'll have the capability to expand and potentially be the largest producer in the U.S. So that's really what drove us forward for 5 years to work on this, because we saw that demand. And to kind of give you a perspective, the United States uses about 12 billion primers a year for ammunition manufacturers mostly, and reloading companies. And about almost half of that is being imported from other countries. And due to tariffs and things like that, some of those countries found it more profitable to sell those primers in other markets, mostly in Asia and Europe. So we're actually going to start seeing more of a decrease of primers being available in the United States starting in 2026. We didn't know that. I'd love to say I knew that was going to happen 5 years ago, but we didn't. But the market is just getting, it's getting worse, not better, as far as demand, fulfilling demand. So as we move this project forward, we started looking at different locations, different states. One of the things that drove us to come to Litchfield was you have a skilled workforce. You're not far from other manufacturers that make primers, right? So there's actually talent we can tap into, especially for the more key roles, if you will. We want that 20 years experience in some of the leadership roles. So it's all about location. And, Litchfield has that. And we also found it very, I've talked to probably 20 different agencies, like city officials like you all. And I found that working with Brianne and other people in Litchfield to be more of a partner kind of conversation than almost an adversarial kind of conversation. So we found it easy to work with you, and it made us comfortable with wanting to be there long term. I mean, it's a big commitment on our part, right? And you don't want to be in a community where you're not feeling like you're at home. And we felt that from the first day we started talking to everyone. So, my hat's off to everybody there for all the people behind the scenes that we worked with, because it took a lot of work and to the last minute even to get us to this point. The technical piece, I want to touch on that just briefly. There's really only 3 consulting firms in the world that know how to build a facility like this. And if you talk to a lot of industry experts, they'll point to one particular firm, and they're in the United States. The other 2 are not in the United States, and they're out of Scottsdale, Arizona. They've been in the industry over 50 years. They have almost 200 years of experience between their team. A lot of these people are lifelong chemists and engineers that worked at places like Winchester and Remington and Federal. So they know what they're doing. They've studied how these facilities need to work. They have records going back to the 1960s on any incident that ever occurred in a primer facility. They look and review that. They figure out why did these things happen? How can we design for these things to not happen to our facilities? They've built these kinds of facilities, both ammo and primer facilities, for not just private companies like us, but for large governments all over the world. So we're confident we have the absolute best technical team, and the fact that they're here in the U.S. is very easy to work with, and we've actually been working with them for over 4 years. So this has not been like, hey, let's go build this thing, right? This has been a very long process, and so we're just super excited to finally get to this point. Our phase one is a $57 million investment. It'll create at least 85 jobs, and I can tell you that running the analysis, we can't run this plant with less than 72, and it's more likely we'll be well above 85. 85 is still kind of a minimum, especially when you're talking about going to that third shift. We plan to be break ground by the end of 2025 and be operational in the summer of 28. Phase two will be a $70 million or more investment and create an additional 75 jobs with operations beginning in 2032. So we're really excited to be here, and we appreciate everyone's hard work to help us.
So Don, thank you for that analysis there and presentation. I also want to thank you. This is the second time you called in a few days. You were here you called in a few days ago for our EDC meeting, and we had some good discussion. And two things they hit on that you've already talked about. Number one, in your presentation, you said, the jobs that you're going to offer, which is wonderful. And then also during the presentation with EDC, you said, we talked about AI in the future and how things are changing with jobs and how you value those employees. Can you tell me kind of your whole outlook for employees and how you're going to take care of them with this business?
Yeah, absolutely. And I spent a number of years in business consulting in the HR world, helping hundreds of companies across the U.S. in many different industries. And a lot of it, when you really boil things down to companies that thrive versus companies that just get by and they have small amounts of growth, companies that really grow the fastest are the ones that really take care of their employees. And so, I refer to this as, are you a destination company? And, and I think of it in that terms because in any community, if you ask someone, where would you want to work? Well, employees want to work somewhere where they're valued, where they're respected, they're paid well, they have good benefits, and they can see themselves staying there for a very long time, maybe their whole career. Well, if you're thought of as a destination, company, you've got to be able to come to the table and take care of those people and know that we're not looking for someone to punch a clock and go home. That's turnover is it's sort of a secret killer of businesses because people don't realize how much money is lost when you start having to advertise. You got to interview people, you train them, and you've got all this money in them, and then they quit. Then you got to go through it again, right? It's a drag on all your resources. Much better to have a trained workforce that you keep long term. So in order to do that, we are coming to the table with, not only, pretty high paying jobs, over $57,000 for the average line worker. That's sort of a entry point, right? Managers and all that will be significantly higher than that. So in addition to that, benefits, we're going to have a very rich benefit package, probably as good or better than anything they're going to find locally or even regionally. We've done a lot of research into what kinds of packages are out there, like 401k will be 6% matching. That's sort of the high end of what people are doing these days. And if that changes, we'll change, right? So we want to be able to offer those kind of things. Same thing with, paid time leave off, all those kind of things. So it's to minimize our turnover. There's always going to be some, but I want to see it as small as possible because if you look at Federal, for example, Federal has very low turnover because they do the same kind of business model. And so we're kind of mirroring that. Oh, as far as you mentioned AI, so one component to our business is research and development, not only for our own products, but we know of other companies that are wanting to utilize us for research and development for themselves. And I came from the AI world, and I know how to use AI to help speed the chemistry process using AI technology. So that's something we're still exploring, or it's a little bit early yet, but it's in our view to look at.
Perfect. I think one thing you mentioned, like for your factory line and that kind of stuff, the AI would be more in the back end, and you still need the human element for the foreseeable future, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the AI is more for chemistry development for scientists. But yeah, you really can't replace someone, physically looking at the product you're manufacturing.
Perfect. And then one of the things, the last thing I would say about the EDC, number one, the council, I know you're all aware, but they unanimously approved, after talking to him, they approved after meeting with him. And then the other thing, and you already touched on this, but when they asked him if their business model was essential for tariffs, what if that changes? Tariffs could go away, and he already went over that, but basically, it doesn't matter if the tariffs go away, you're in good shape, there's a shortage, correct?
Yeah, there's a shortage. We've got companies all over the U.S. that have really encouraged us to do this, because when they're buying a lot of their primers from overseas, and they're paying tariffs. If the tariffs go up, it makes it even more financially, difficult to swallow. And also, the cash flow is really terrible, because they have to pay for a large shipping container worth of primers for every order. When they're buying from a U.S. company like us, they can order just what they need for the week or the month, and we can ship it out as they need it. So there's a huge advantage to us, even if our price is the same. But we know that we can be very competitive on price, and we can deliver faster. Our quality is going to be better. We're going to be the most modern facility in the world. So it doesn't matter if we have tariffs or not. We have huge advantages in the marketplace.
And I do just want to add, in addition to the Economic Development Commission's support, we also have letters supporting this project from Senator McClure and Representative Rosenthal.
That's all I had. Any questions from the floor here?
Yeah, so, we can introduce ourselves.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Alderman Holloway, you can't see me, I'm out of view of the screen over here, but I myself am a CEO of my own corporation, and leadership is the most important factor, right? You lead from the top, and it should trickle down. What is your organizational structure around you and the team that you're bringing and their experience in this industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I myself have over 30 years in business consulting, as well as over 25 years in startup operations and growing new businesses. In addition, specifically to the industry, we have some of the top, considered experts in the industry with over 40 years experience. Some are 37 years experience in manufacturing, specifically in primer manufacturing. So we're not having to start with people we hope can do the job. We know they can do the job.
I'm Alderman Hughes. I know you probably can't see me very well either, but my question for you do you already have, are we working with contracts that were already set in place, or are we hoping to get contracts? What's the status on that, do you know?
When you say contracts, are you talking about?
I'm assuming for selling primer to larger.
Yes, he's referencing sales contracts, like from certified government.
Yeah, so we work with, there's about 400, let's call it reloading companies, these are companies that don't actually make a bullet, they don't make a case, they don't make primers or gunpowder, but they buy all those components and they make ammunition. So there's about 400 of those. We've talked to dozens of them. All of them have said, as soon as you have it available, send us samples, we're on board. We have letters of intent, or letters letters of interest, rather, better way to put it, letters of interest from larger manufacturers that are DoD manufacturers of ammunition that do make cases and things like that. And they want, frankly, they'd buy everything we have, but they're just counting the volume that they want. It would take everything we can produce the first 2 years of production. And I could have gotten more, but the truth is we're trying to keep this very quiet until we were at this point. Didn't want everyone in the industry to know we're doing it. So we just went to the companies we knew and knew would not run around telling everybody. So but we do have those letters of intent.
Alderman Holloway here again. One of the things that constituents have brought to my attention, what are some environmental things that we could potentially be dealing with, whether it be ground, air, those sort of things, so that we publicly can address that?
Sure, I understand. From 40,000 feet, what are we really doing? We're taking a thin piece of copper and we're punching it into a very tiny little metal cup. Okay, there's no environmental concerns from reshaping copper, if you will, punching copper. The energetics that are manufactured, they have, they're just frankly chemicals, but it's in this, what they call a slurry. It's kind of a mud-like compound. There are some trace elements of heavy metals. So there is a special, these rooms are specially designed and built that they are washed down, and all the water goes into a wastewater treatment facility, and all the water that comes out of that is actually cleaner than the water that comes in from the city. And it takes about 3 months to even gather enough in the filter system to have it removed, and we pay a company to come and remove that and dispose of it. But there is no like airborne issues or vapors or anything like that to worry about.
This is Alderman Hughes again. My question for you has to do with whether or not, how do you address dealing with potential like fires or other types of things that might happen at a facility like this? What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so these facilities are, a class 1 explosive, which is what the designation is the lowest level that you can get a designation for, because essentially these primers just make a spark. But in the manufacturing process, there's what is called a hot side or cold, and a cold side of the building. The hot side is where they're actually mixing these chemicals together, and as a safety precaution, and this is, lots of engineer and decades of experience, it's all robotic, and it's in a very small room, and these are blast-proof rooms with blowout ceilings and walls with outside berms around these structures. So if there ever was an event, something happened or went wrong, the blast would go outside, it would be contained, and there's no one ever in those rooms. It's all, like I said, it's all robotically controlled by an operator outside the room that looks from a camera. So it's very, very safe. Fires, there's sprinkler systems and things like that, like you have in any business.
Alderman Holloway here again. So you do not feel that there would be any extraordinary burden on our EMS and fire department, that this wouldn't require us as a city to have to hire extra people or extra equipment to be on standby for any particular situation?
No, it would not require anything special or any additional resources.
Anyone else have any questions? And one other thing, I just want to add, this is my last thing we have, if no one has any more questions. As you mentioned, there's no airborne problems, but some, factories and stuff, like for example, Decatur has ADM, okay? There's no health issues, but there's a unique smell in the air. Are there any of those kind of issues with primer facilities that aren't health issues, but quality of life issues, let's say?
There would not be any odors or anything associated with that. You could stand outside the building and not know there was anything unusual going on inside.
Any further discussion?
Could we smell it anyway, or the other place we have here that smells it?
Yeah, so the other one's mine, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I did it all over,
Okay, well, thank you for your responses. I think we're ready for a roll call.
Well, before we vote, Mayor, I apologize if I can
You're good.
interject. We did discover after this has been distributed to council, a couple, two, minor typographical type of errors I want to bring to council's attention. And, I believe it would be in the best interest for there to be a motion and a second to amend the agreement as it stands to correct these two minor errors. And I can bring it to your attention if you have an agreement, this is on the development agreement itself, which is an exhibit to the ordinance. So if you were looking at page 5 of 15 of the development agreement, and I had discussed these corrections with council, with the attorney for national primers, and they are in agreement with these changes as well. So we're looking at page 5 of 15, down toward the bottom, number 7, phase 1. If you look right below where number 7, phase 1 is typed, and it states as written now, should developer to perform, we've omitted a keyword there. It should read as should developer fail to perform. That would be the first correction that we would want to make to the agreement. The second correction is on page 7. Again, toward the bottom, number 6, and it's, under subsection A of number 6. This one is, a decimal point should have been used, but a comma was used in that 70 million number there. So 700, comma, 000, comma, 000, should be a decimal point, 00. Those are the two corrections.
Do we need a motion for the amended corrections?
We do, yes, a motion and a second to correct those.
Would someone like to make a motion for the amended, perfect, Alderman Garcia, can I get a second, please? Alderperson Zumwalt. Roll call, please.
Hughes. Hughes. Holloway.
Aye.
Zumwalt. Huffman.
Aye.
Sisson. Garrell. Garcia.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Motion passes. All right. So now we can do the motion. All right, can I get the roll call for the, now the amended, right?
Well, we amended it, right?
Correct, so
So that was the amendment.
that was for the amendment, now we'll take a vote on the
Agreement.
ordinance,
To
so.
approve the agreement
To
as
approve.
amended.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we're doing a roll call, is that clear, so everyone understand? All right, now we're doing a roll call.
Okay. Do we have, are they making the motions for the same Kellenberger, Sisson for that agreement? Is that correct?
We need a motion to approve as amended.
Yeah, we need a new motion for this, can I get a motion to approve the new amended version? All right, Alderperson Huffman is the first, can I get a second, please?
Sisson.
Alderperson Sisson second.
Sisson. Garrell.
Aye.
Zumwalt. Huffman. Hughes. Garcia.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Perfect. Next year, Alderperson Kellenberger.
Oh, oops, hang on a second.
Go back to the beginning.
Okay, make a motion to approve an ordinance approving commercial real estate sales contract with Steve Smith, Scott Smith, Naomi Smith, H. Kelly Smith, Linda Jackson, and Joe Ellen Ornstein for the purchase of 62 acres plus or minus of land.
All right, we have a motion from Alderperson Kellenberger, can I get a second? Alderperson Garrell, seconds. Any discussion on this? All right, roll call please.
Zumwalt. Kellenberger.
Aye.
Sisson. Garrell.
Aye.
Hughes. Huffman. Garcia.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Alderperson Kellenberger, you're up again.
I make a motion to approve an ordinance approving the commercial real estate sales contract with Ross Lake, Michael Hittmeyer for the purchase of 62 plus or minus acres of land.
Got a motion from Alderperson Kellenberger, can I get a second, please? Alderperson Garrell seconds. Any discussion?
I'll just note for the record that none of this land will be utilized for the National Primers project. However, the city does feel, since it is adjacent, we hope to get future developments as a result of this first development on the west side. We do believe that we need to execute this option now.
Roll call, please.
Hughes.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Zumwalt. Huffman.
Aye.
Sisson.
Aye.
Garrell.
Aye.
Garcia. Kellenberger.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Alderperson Kellenberger, you're up again.
I make a motion to approve an ordinance approving commercial real estate sales contract with National Primers LLC for the sale of 200 acre plus or minus acres of land.
All right, have a motion, can I get a second, please? Alderperson Garrell seconds. Any discussion about the purchase?
I just want to note for the record that this is associated with the development contract. It's the term of the development agreement.
Perfect. Roll call, please.
Zumwalt. Sisson.
Aye.
Garrell.
Aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Hughes.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, Alderperson Holloway, you're up, my friend.
I think we've
Wait,
got
wait, wait.
one more, number 5.
It's the ratio.
Oh, Ray, you get to go do one more, I'm sorry, I didn't want you to feel left out,
Okay.
my friend.
I make a motion to approve an ordinance approving and authorizing the mayor to execute an emergency roof grant agreement with the Veterans of Foreign Wars for 215 West Ryder and other actions related thereof. Thereto.
All right, can we get a second, please? Alderperson Zumwalt seconds. And this was to fix our roof, correct? Perfect, yep, we'll note that. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to say, you know, it would be a really great thing if there's those out in the public who have the means to help these guys to do that. The VFW does so much for our community. They're just tremendous guys, so I just wanted to put that out there. If somebody's sitting on some money that they'd like to donate to those guys, I'm sure they would appreciate that.
Good play, Alder. All right, roll call, please.
Garrell.
Aye.
Sisson.
Aye.
Zumwalt.
Aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Hughes.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Abstain.
All right, motion carries. All right, now Alderperson Holloway, it's your turn.
A motion to approve the purchase of a 2019 Ford Explorer from the city of Carrollton, Illinois for an amount not to exceed $10,500.
All right, we got-
And we are actually administratively pulling this from the agenda, it sounds like. Would you like to explain that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had some discussions. Do you wanna take the lead, actually, Alderperson Holloway? You talked to your liaison, so why don't you go ahead?
Yes, so, we had a discussion about, whether to buy this used vehicle, and with further discussion, that this was sort of my idea, because I deal with equipment all the time in my personal businesses, and every time I bought a used piece of equipment, what ends up happening is, over the long term, it winds up coming back to bite you, because why are they selling it? Why are they moving off that piece of equipment? So I would hate to spend this much money. My thought process was, I would hate to spend this much money to buy something that we were gonna have to put more money back into. So I thought, let's put it out for bid, thinking that maybe the ordinance officer position maybe doesn't need a squad car that maybe is quite upfitted to the standard as a normal squad car, that maybe we could put it out for bid and get something reasonably priced. And after further discussion about the budget, I think that's the direction that we're gonna go.
Yeah, we'll get nickel and dimed, and it might be better for the long term.
Absolutely.
And then we'll put it out for local bid, and
It'd be great if a local bid was able to pick it up too. It's always a benefit to see our local businesses benefit from these.
How many miles on that car? Yeah.
I think there was over 100,000. And you know, and that's the other thing to consider is 100,000 miles maybe in a, I don't know.
A normal car.
A normal car
Good
isn't too bad, but when in a police vehicle, you know, where you're stopping, going, accelerating at high rates of speed, those sort of things, got a little bit more wear and tear on it than probably we like.
Perfect. So, is everyone okay with tabling that then? Does that make sense?
We're just administratively
Oh,
moving it
oh,
from
we
the
got
agenda.
to move on discussion. We're moving that from the agenda, we explain why. But you're up again, my friend.
I make a motion to approve a resolution waiving the competitive bidding and authorizing the sole source purchase of True Delta Narcotics detection identification machine with a 2-year warranty from Thermo Fisher Scientific for an amount not to exceed $37,400.
Perfect, I have a motion, can I get a second? Alderperson Zumwalt seconds, and one thing I do wanna say is $33,000 of this is coming from private funds, the Kilton Fund, so most of this is coming from the Kilton Fund. And I think this is a new thing, I don't know if you wanna talk about the benefits of this. This is a new, it's gonna protect officers dealing with, scary substances, correct?
Yeah, sure. So right now we use what are called field test kits. They're a little chemical reaction. You gotta flick them. You have to remove the narcotics from the bag, put them into that test kit, and that can heat up. There's a lot of issues with those. I mean, they work fine, but you also go through hundreds and hundreds of them throughout the year. This is an expensive piece of equipment, but it utilizes like laser that goes into it through a bag that can identify it. It's utilized by our drug task force at the state level. We've used that for years. It's well accepted as a probable cause finding machine. We still have to send things off to the lab to confirm those findings, but it takes out handling of fentanyl, heroin, and those types of things that can be absorbed through your skin. It's caused some issues with health with officers in our region as well. So we look forward to it. Yep.
So is this something that's used, it's in a car with someone, or this is when they bring something from a bus back to the police station and it's tested there?
It's portable, but it costs like almost $40,000, so it's gonna sit back there, and they'll bring the little bags of dope to it and do it in here. But it's a handheld, machine. Within this purchase, they're gonna train 12 of our officers how to operate it. We're gonna have the state's attorney come over, or at least one of his assistants, to walk through that, so that when they're presenting this, they can say, I've seen how this thing works. We're really looking forward to it. It's pretty cool.
Great. Any further discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Garrell.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Zumwalt.
Aye.
Hughes.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Aye.
Sisson.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Alderperson Garcia.
I make a motion to approve a repair by Schindler Elevator for the water plant elevator that was damaged by lightning for the amount not to exceed $11,759.
We have a motion from Alderperson Garcia, can I get a second, please? Second. Alderperson Kellenberger seconds. Any further discussion? Is insurance covering this, Ray?
Yes.
Wonderful, love to hear that. All right, roll call, please.
Garrell.
Aye.
Sisson.
Aye.
Zumwalt.
Abstain.
Huffman.
Aye.
Hughes.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Aye.
Motion passes. Alderperson Garcia.
I make a motion to authorize Durkin Equipment to upgrade the water plant communication network for an amount not to exceed $18,698.
We have a motion from Alderperson Garcia, second from Alderperson Garrell. Any further discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Hughes.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Zumwalt.
Abstain.
Huffman.
Aye.
Sisson.
Aye.
Garrell.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Alderperson Garcia.
I make a motion to approve a proposal for engineering services from Milano and Grunlow Engineers LLC to assist with the project plan for the Unsewered Communities Grant Program for an amount not to exceed $30,000.
We have a motion from Alderperson Garcia. Can I get a second, please? Alderperson Zumwalt seconds. Any discussion on that? Randy, you've been working on that grant for a while, right?
Yes, we have been.
Yeah, this home stretch, these just engineers looking over the plans and making sure it works.
It's mostly out 16, like, past the bowling alley, and then Roberson Vision.
Wonderful, glad to hear that. Thank you for your work on that. All right, roll call, please.
Zumwalt.
Aye.
Sisson.
Aye.
Garrell.
Aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Hughes. Garcia.
Aye.
Kellenberger.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Alderperson Garcia.
I make a motion to approve an emergency lift station pump repair on the Orange Drive by Vandeventer Engineering for an amount not to exceed $14,755.85.
We have a motion from Alderperson Garcia. Can I get a second, please? Alderperson Sisson seconds. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Garrell.
Aye.
Holloway.
Aye.
Zumwalt.
Aye.
Hughes. Garcia.
Aye.
Huffman. Kellenberger.
Aye.
Sisson.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. motion to adjourn, please? Alderperson Kellenberger, Alderperson Garrell seconds, roll call please.
Did you say Carol?
Garrell seconds.
Stonewall. Aye. Sisson. Carroll. Huffman. Hughes. Garcia. Kellenberger. Holloway.